A few weeks ago, a pretty nice thing happened to me. I was able to break my 9 years old 5K personal best on the track. We are often told that for endurance athletes, the first thing we lose as we age is speed. And since I set my last 5K personal best back in 2011 of 16:59, I would have imagined that that personal best would have stayed unbroken for 9 years. And also that every year, although my marathon time and my half marathon time would get faster and faster, my 5K time would actually get slower and slower. So I thought I was just age and there was nothing to do about it. I was still doing interval training, tempo training, and long runs, and all the classic training for the past 9 years non-stop. That didn't seem to stop this loss of speed over the 5K distance. But eventually, a few weeks ago, I did break my 5K personal best. And today in this video, I'm going to tell you what I did, why it worked, and how you can incorporate that into your training in 6 points. And of course, finally, before we start, let me start off by saying that this is not magic. I'm not selling you a blue pill, this is a red pill. And although my first name is Harry, my last name is not Potter. Running is just about putting one foot in front of the other. So when it comes to training, everything is about the details. Now let's think about the relationship between the maximum speed and the duration. Let's take a look at this graph. The main limiter of your endurance speed is your absolute maximum speed. Say your maximum speed is X for a couple of seconds. Then as the duration increases, your maximum speed you can sustain over that period of time will decrease as well. And so for example, if you want to run a sub 4-minute mile, which is equivalent to running a 24 km/h for 4 minutes, then your maximum speed must be above 24 km/h. Now let's go back to the graph again and let's see. A beginner's graph will look more like this. The drop in speed as the duration increases will happen very quickly, as opposed to the elite runner whose drop in speed will happen at a much slower rate. Now let's say you want to improve your 5K time. You can either try to reshape quote-unquote your endurance curve by training your endurance with interval training, for example. Or maybe you can try to shift the entire curve upward. If you manage to raise your endurance speed limiter, that is your maximum speed, then in theory, the whole curve should follow as well. Of course, please keep in mind that we are oversimplifying things here. And of course, the most straightforward way to work on that is by doing plain old school all-out sprints. Why do you think all the pro runners have sprint workouts in their regiment? And so here is how to train your max speed in 6 points. Number 1, 35-second hill sprints with full recovery. The thing is that sprinting on a flat surface is less forgiving on the joints. Your body has to endure more mechanical stress compared to running up a hill. I would start with 1 or 2 reps per week, then building up to 8 reps. I would avoid jumping right into 8 reps cold turkey. Even though it's less stressful on the body compared to running on the flat, it's not without risk. It's more demanding on the Achilles tendons, for example, so if you go crazy, you might get an Achilles tendonitis or something nasty like a plantar fasciitis, and you don't want that. Point number 2, run up the hills as if you were chased by a lion. And that is the key here. The goal is to maximize your speed, to maximize your power output during that short period of time. You're not going at 99%, you're going at 200%. Try to go as far as possible during these 35 seconds. Speaking of power, actually, if you want to track your progress, the best way is to have this little device, which is a power meter, a running power meter that works similarly to a bike power meter. This one is made by the company STRYD, right here. And that football will give you an accurate estimate of your power output. And regardless of your terrain, whether you're running uphill or downhill, and also take into account the air resistance. From a power perspective, when you're running those hills, your goal is to maximize your power output. You want to maximize those 30-second power output. If you're familiar with zone training, and if you follow a 5-zone training model, then that will be called a zone 5 training. And so in my case, after 10 weeks of zone 5 training, my 30-second max power increased by 10%, which is actually quite a lot.
Point number 3, 300 meters repetition with full recovery. Ultimately, your goal is to run on the flat, so training exclusively on hills might not be the best idea, and that's why doing short intervals on flat is a good complement. On these flat repetitions, you also want to go very hard, between 95% effort to all-out effort. Build up to 8 reps, and you also want to take long rest to recover fully between bouts. You want to track your time in order to track your progress, and ideally your power output as well, to see if your efficiency improved. Point number 4, stick to it for at least 8 weeks. There's no training method that is magic. The body needs to adapt to any new stimulus. If you do 1 or 2 sessions, then for sure nothing is going to happen. Point number 5, minimize other types of speed work. Make this your main speed session of the week. Besides the fact that we tend to lack patience, there's other reasons we don't stick to it. Usually we get bored and want to squeeze in other types of sexy workouts, front leg, long runs, tempo, etc. etc. Set a 6 to 8 week cycle where your main speed session of the week will be the hill sprints and the 300 meter repeats. And finally, the last point is to track your progress. Before you start your training block, I suggest you do a test workout or a time trial or something of that nature. Then at the end of your training block, repeat the same test to see if you get any improvement. For example, in my case, the main indicator of my improvement is a workout I have been doing on a regular basis since I started running, which is a 6x1000 meter on the track. Back in 2011, my average for that workout was 3:17 minutes per kilometer. Then each year after that, I was losing about 1 second or so until 2020, where I was averaging 3:24 minutes per kilometer. Then after 10 weeks of zone 5 training, I came back to the track and I was able to average 3:18 minutes per kilometer, which hasn't happened since 2012.
And just a final note, the purpose of course is not to do this training all year long. Like any type of training, you need to periodize your training. After that training block, the next thing you can do, for example, is to jump back into classic interval training. Okay guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave it on the comment section below. I will make sure to answer all of them, obviously if I know the answer. And until next time, see you.